Hey guys, welcome back. Well, we're going to start putting the 450R back together. I got the head up on the table. We went through it, cleaned it up, looked for cracks, looked for the different things that could be cause of a coolant leak. Didn't see anything. Almost suspecting possibly it was the head gasket. I don't know. So we cleaned it up. Actually going to put some new valves in this. So what we have here is brand new Honda valves, and I'm going to put them in. The other ones had a lot of hours on them, had a little cupping in them. So we're going to go ahead and lap these in. So we're going to take these valves and we're going to use a little bit of abrasive paste, and we're going to put it on the seat, the valve seat, and put these valves down in there, and use this cool little tool. Very easy, basic way to do it, but basically sanding and grinding the surface to make sure that everything is seated. Now, most of the times you don't have to do this with newer heads, with newer cut valve seats, but this thing has got some hours on it, so I'm just going to do it for the sake of showing you, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so what we're going to do is, I usually take my paste, get a little oil on there. I've already oiled up my stem, so I got oil on the stem here. I'm going to do an intake seat first. Slide that down in there. Let's try the little one. As you can hear a little abrasion. I'm just working it around. Make sure we got some abrasive material on there. Put a little bit more in there. So what you can see, other than the abrasive junk on there, it's very hard to see, but there's a minute line that when you go all the way around, it should be an even line. So there you go. You can see the shiny and then the dull. The dull is where we just did our lapping. So you want that width of that dull to be the same all the way around, and that'll tell you that it's got a good seat. And as you can see, as I turn it, it looks the same width. So that's lapping valves. Let's do all 4 of them, and then we got to do a good clean job and get all this abrasiveness out. Probably wash it a couple times, and then we'll put it back together. Don't need too much on it. You don't want to grind a lot off of it. That's the whole thing. You don't want to do what I'm replacing the valves because they're wore out. You just want to make sure you have a good sealing surface. And just note too, as you noticed, what I have down here is you need to make sure, you see here, intakes, right, left, exhaust, right, left. I even have them marked on the bottom, left and right, front of the engine. The valves have to go back into the same spot you just lapped, so don't get them mixed up. Don't do them and just lay them all down there, even though you only have 2, so you got a 50-50 chance to make it right. Is just kind of label them, and they'll go back in the same hole that you already lapped. So we're good to go, and I'm going to go wash this out real good with some hot soapy water and blow it out real good and get all this grit. We got to get the grit out because that'll just tear it up. And we'll put it back together. So putting the valve in here, got this nice little spring compressor tool. So you crunch it down far enough to where you get to there's a groove in the top. And there's these things called little keepers, little half moon wedges that go in here. Let me grab those. Just make sure when you put this spring in here, there is a hardened washer right there. Make sure your head has the hardened washers on it, because they do fall out, especially if you're cleaning. And if you do not put them back in, you will beat the aluminum out of the head. Make sure you hit it. Make sure those keepers are set in there. They're a bugger. My little numb fingers are not working, but we got her in there. Let's do the next 3. Alright guys, got the head together. Now let's clean this cylinder up. Again, looked at the cylinder, there's nothing wrong. Just like the head, I put straight edges on it. It's not warped. You can see it still got a good crosshatch in there, if you can see that. But we got to knock the glaze. I'm putting new rings in there, so we'll knock the glaze off and we'll be ready to start putting this thing back together. Guys, so we got this hone. I'm going to run this through here. We got it oiled up real good, and we're going to just try to put the crosshatch. We're not trying to take anything off, just trying to knock the glaze off. There you go. New cross hatching in it. Knock the glaze off. We don't want to go too much. We're not trying to take any material off, just knock the glaze off. This is Nicosil coated, so can't really do much to it anyway. But hey guys, we're got the cylinder all cleaned up. You saw we got it honed, washed it out with soap. So right now I got the top ring in there, and I'm just checking the gap. Most of the time the gap is pretty good on these ATVs. This is a stock bore, 94 millimeter. It's calling for 15 thousandths, so I got my feeler gauge, and you can see fits nice and snug. So that's good. The gap is good. Just make sure the ring is in there evenly. You can use an old piston. I'm just using a square to kind of square the ring up in there. You don't want it cocked in there, but make sure you check your rings, and you'll be good.
Clean the top of the piston back to new. So I had all that junk on there from the combustion on top of the piston, so just took some brushes, some carburetor cleaner, and back to brand new.
counterclockwise. I think we're right there. Hold that. As you can see, top end's back on. Got the radiator hoses hooked up. Got valve cover in there. Got the carb on there. Still need to put the air box. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. Cleaned the filter and oiled it so it's ready to go in. Need to put some antifreeze in it. Put some gear oil in it and some motor oil, and we will be ready to fire this thing up.
So as you can see, we're looking at the case of the 450R. Remember that one view we looked at this before we took the motor apart? It had that like weird like lightish brown tone. Of course, you know, the water mixing with the oil, it, you know, had that foaming action and it made it real like light. So as you can see, you know, of course we rebuilt the motor and put the new oil in it. As you can tell, bike's had 3 rides in it now, and the oil still looks perfect. You know, for saying that, we're going to have to come back and kind of think of an idea of how it happened.
All right, guys, so we got the 450R put back together. You've seen the, you know, pictures of the oil now. So we've got about an hour of break-in time on it. 3 different rides for 3 different heat cycles. And there's no water in the oil. Thank goodness. Why did it happen? We have no idea. But we do know originally, if you remember, we did have a base gasket leaking. It was a mixture of water and oil in the base gasket that we had saw. So that's the only thing I can chalk up to be, because that's the only things we've replaced is head gasket and base gasket. Everything else is exactly the same. So maybe there was a slight imperfection that I could not see, but as of right now, it's fixed. This is the break-in oil. I'm getting ready to change out this oil and put the regular oil we run in them, and probably go for a longer ride, but as of right now, it's fixed.